Hi, I'm Ariane Sparks. Welcome to the Hot Seat. With us today to discuss the ongoing crisis in Greece is Dr. Daphne Halikiopoulou. Thanks for being with us, Daphne.
Thanks for having me.
So can you tell us about the recent developments in Greece?
As you know, the Greek crisis is ongoing. It's been going on for a very long time. It's a political crisis, it's an economic crisis, it's a domestic crisis with European and also international implications. It's an issue of corruption and also economic and political instability that has been going on for years. But I think the crisis snowballed in the last 2 weeks when the now former Prime Minister George Papandreou suddenly announced that he was going to hold a referendum on whether the austerity measures would continue and effectively if Greece would remain in the Euro and the European Union, surprising both the Greek domestic scene and also the European and international leaders. Ever since, there's been turmoil in Greece, and effectively the Prime Minister has now resigned and has been substituted by a new coalition government comprising of three main parties.
Can you tell us about the new Prime Minister, Lucas Papadimos?
Yes, Lucas Papadimos is not a politician. That's probably the most important thing about him. Lucas Papadimos is an economist. He is the former governor of the Bank of Greece and also vice president of the European Central Bank. He's also an academic. I believe he has held posts in Columbia University and the University of Athens. But most importantly, he has been chosen as an economic solution to what is considered to be predominantly an economic problem. In addition, because of his capacity as a technocrat, so an attempt to have more experts in the new government rather than sort of accountable politicians, he is a way to solve the political accountability problem in Greece, which is probably the most important implication of the economic crisis.
Do you think he can guide Greece through this crisis?
Well, as I said, the most important problem, the most important challenge that this government is now facing is dealing with the political implications of the economic crisis. In other words, the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding is, can the new Prime Minister retain his legitimacy while imposing the very tough austerity measures that need to be carried through? In addition, the problem is even bigger because the problem in Greece is systemic. It is a fact, it is an issue of corruption which is embedded in every element of social life. If the government is going to deal with the economic crisis, it is effectively going to have to introduce serious cuts in the public sector and tackle tax evasion. This could lead to even more serious, or could trigger even more serious popular unrest. The ability of the government to tackle these problems will determine to a great extent Greece's economic future and, of course, Greece's place in the European Union.
Where do you see Greece going from here? Is there a chance that they'll leave the euro?
I mean, that is always a possibility. It's very difficult to guess, to be honest, because this is both a domestic question as it also is a European Union question. We need to take both the internal and the external dynamics into consideration when thinking of such a question, of such an issue. On the one hand, practicalities entail that this is something that hasn't happened before. This would be the first country to leave the euro. What does that entail? Does it mean leaving the European Union altogether? It would be a domino effect. What if Greece leaves the euro and the European Union? Where does that leave other countries that are facing perhaps not similar but also important financial problems, such as Italy, such as Spain, such as Ireland? As much as it's not in Greece's best interest to leave the European Union at this moment, neither is it in the best interest of European leaders to have this happen. So we can't know, but the important thing to say is that there's a very tough road lying ahead with dealing with austerity measures, with trying to gain both democratic and domestic accountability. And there is always the chance that Greece will default.
All right, we'll leave it there. Dr. Halikiopoulou, you're off the hot seat. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us. Please tune in next month for our next edition of the Hot Seat.